But the research didn't stop after the first LED was invented. In the next few years, subsequently came the green and the red LEDs. However, further, there was a long gap of almost about 50 years, you can say, when just about 2 years back, in fact, if I'm not wrong, a Nobel Prize was received collaboratively by the Japanese and the US scientists for inventing the blue LED, which has got a peculiarity, the color properties, its spectrum, its luminance, etc. So it is someone else's research on the simple LED which stopped that time about 50 years back, and that have been brought into with new thoughts, experiments, and dimensions. Dear friends, a research presentation always brings about revolution, what is called a change. This has led to revolutionize the engineering to impact the global challenges and foster the technological innovations. Mentioning LEDs to most of the people today probably think out only of lighting. However, the general awareness and LED technology is driving a revolution and that has been spanning the globe. Over the decades, a unique combination of LED size and efficiency has enabled the artificial lighting to reach to the parts of the globe. This has been possible due to the inexorable process of solid state technology fueled by unique combination of engineering advances. The LED market present penetration has accelerated tremendously what we are all witnessing today. It is truly transformative from the product concept and specification that all the way through manufacturing and the supply chains. It is therefore seen that the traditional industry leaders like the Philips or Osram Sylvania for that purpose are busy reinventing their business models. Of course, the manufacturing and trading companies also have to understand this concept and be alert with the industry 4.0 aspects. Otherwise, to mention, we have the best example of
This is
Nokia
almost linearly
phones.
emitting area. This
10
enables
years back,
optimization of
10 years back, this phone was in everybody's pocket, we know, the Nokia phone. But today, due to its ignorance and non-acceptance to the new technology, it has really gone not only out of our pockets, but out of the market as well. For early years, the technology used to revolve around the business models. But since the last decade, we are witnessing that we see that the business models are now revolving around the technology. So business models have understood and dynamically started accepting the changes as well as the challenges. That is perhaps also the reason that we have the Ola, Uber, Amazon, and Flipkart, etc., which were never in existence in the past, right? So when we were envisaging India to be the supreme in technology in the coming decade, as said and as visioned by our past president, late Honorable Dr. APJ Kalam, there had been a bottlenecks like the one which is pandemic, which is prevailing situation, that is the COVID-19. But however, the human brains never stop to progress. It has led to revolutionize engineering impact, the global challenges, and foster the new technological innovations. Of course, to initiate, there is always a need for such exclusive webinars that have been today organized by the IIT Hyderabad Center. Today's webinar topic has been well thought by the IIT Hyderabad Center to have the novel applications of LED with the flip to industry applications. The Hyderabad Center is always doing a very commendable work by conducting a series of knowledge sharing sessions, as rightly is quoted in their mails always. We have been witnessing that for the spectrum of technological treats by this center, and they have been inviting experts on the various domain. The center has always been on the forefront for such activities. I thank the center for inviting me today and wish the forthcoming webinars a grand success. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sir, thank you very much, sir, Thakre sir, for your inaugural address to the IIT life members, sir. The fact that you are busy, in spite of your busy schedule, I should really thank you for having come and address the IIT webinar session. So I also recognize two important prominent figures of IET. One is Murali sir, the other is Sanjay Gulhani. Gulare sir, both of them very prominent, have done good work for IET. I also acknowledge some of the prominent figures of Hyderabad, Anupam Tiwari sir, then you have Murthy Sharma sir, you have Vaidyanathan sir from Chennai, I think. Probably he was trying yesterday to get registered himself, but that could not happen. So he is now present today. And also Yogesh Kundalik, and also Dayanand sir. Dayanand sir is one of the co-opted member. And also the other co-opted member, Vijay Kumar Gupta Garu. Please, thankful to you, sir, for having accepted our invitation to give the webinar session today, sir. But before we go into the his webinar session, let us have his profile read by the one more prominent figure of the Hyderabad chapter committee, Sangamkar sir, to go ahead and read his profile, sir. Sangamkar sir. Sorry, Sandhya madam. Sorry, Sandhya madam.
Okay, sir. That's what I got confused.
Okay, Sandhya madam, go ahead, madam. Please.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Very good morning, all the respected members presented today. Warm welcome to the webinar session. So it's really my pleasure to read out today's speaker, Vijay Kumar Gupta sir profile once again. So,
Sandhya madam, you will make it short. Need not be very long.
Yes, sir. I'll do that. So Vijay Kumar Gupta sir is founder of India's only LED manufacturing plant in 1987, Quality Photonics and LED Chip Industries Private Limited. And sir is gold medalist engineer scientist from IIT with internship at Barak and EIFR. Made the LED as B project, served as a scientist in CEL, Delhi for development of red LED under DST project with NPL know-how. Sir is trained in Japan for tungsten filament technology in 1980. His companies produce LEDs, LED segment display, and power LEDs for lighting, as well as special spectrum LEDs for spectrometers, horticulture, and medical and disinfection uses. Gupta sir served as partnered EU project H 2020 with 6 EU universities, BITS Pilani Goa and NITI Nagpur on multi-technology drinking water solutions for 4 communities for 4 years, and MS University for COB LED packaging. Sir supports new startups and applications in novel application of LEDs, such as in UV disinfection projects. His company supports up to 100 interns for on-job experience and has industrial visit facility for the engineering colleges from all over India to expose them to LED component production technology. And sir supports PhD students in Asper Evolution at IITM, HCU, Assam University, BITS Nagpur University, and he is a guest lecturer at Beltech University, JNIT, KITS, Avanti, NRVJT, etc. Thank you so much, sir. With this short and brief profile, I request you to start with the session. Thank you.
Unmute, sir.
Is my presentation visible? Because let us set that up.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Oh, that's really great, because I'm not able to see it myself. Okay. Great. So, at the outset, I thank you, madam, and thank you, the IET, for giving me this opportunity to interact with the stalwarts of electronics engineering in IET, especially the great professors and officers, even from the Delhi Council here. So thank you so much. I'm Vijay Kumar Gupta, and I was lucky to be into this line of LEDs very early. When I joined IISc Bangalore, my parent company had a manufacturing factory manufacturing bulbs. We thought that LEDs will obsolete that, and I was looking for how to learn LEDs. And then my presence in admission to IISc was a great boon. It was a 3 years BE after BE. And then I could do any course which I liked across the departments because we had a this core systems, the grade systems we had. So I did a lot of courses in material sciences, in chemistry department, physics department, though I was an electronics student, electrical engineering student. And then thanks to summer internship, which I did at BRS and TFR, I was able to make the LED also on the campus. And then was also lucky to join CEL team, which was entrusted the task of DST program to develop LEDs. We are talking about 40 years ago. We all know about LEDs very well now, but 40 years ago, this was the case when we had only red LEDs at that time. And then a bit later, the green LEDs came up, and much later, the blue LEDs came up. The blue, as Dr. Thackeray said, the inventor of blue LEDs was given the Physics Nobel Prize because it made a dramatic difference in the whole world. It was a disrupting invention, though LED was known since 1960s. But this guy, Shuji Nakamura, he persisted to develop a process to grow epitaxial layers of indium gallium nitride and gallium nitride, right ratio. And there we had blue LEDs. And thanks to the phosphor technology of Nichia, we are started making white LEDs out of blue LEDs because all LEDs are monochromatic. And then they soon found that they were so brilliant and so efficient in conversion of electrical energy that they have now put all the traditional lights like incandescent bulb, tube lights, discharge bulbs, and HPS all behind. And now today the LEDs have the greatest promise. Not only that, they are the mainstream lighting now. And today, I think the topic is to move again from, so already it's a decade now that we have come into lighting, LEDs with lighting. Now it's time also to look at other important applications of LED, and they are really great reports. So before that, let us have a short introduction about LED itself, right? Basically, it's our group companies, and let me not send that. So, as you all know, the tube lights are the best sources of light, but they have mercury inside. So, if you are disposing millions of lights, used lights into the earth, you are creating a toxic planet for our future, our own kids, this generation, great-grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren. I think. So that's a biggest benefit that LED has given us. It is all solid, no glass, no filament to break. It has got almost 1 lakh of hours and beyond. And it is, of course, we can convert if the crystal is properly made. Today we are converting, getting 160 to 170 lumens per watt. Yeah, and then theoretically we can go up to 350 lumens per watt. And then best part is we can change the color composition of the LED, white color composition very easily. So it's called color rendering index, how close it is to the sunlight. And then also we can change the colors by adding several things in that. So we are not stuck with any single thing. And by using a lens, which is integral part of the LED itself, by changing the lens shape and size and focal points and all, we can get a beam which without add any optics after the LED is made, and then that way we are bringing down the total cost of the whole system. So almost like a system on chip here. And then what do the LEDs have? Basically, they have 2 leads with a chip there, and then a wire which is going there. And the modern LEDs, where we are talking about, now we are trying to replace the regular lighting with LED. So that means a 60-watt bulb we would like to replace. By calculation, you need only 9 watts of LED. But even 9 watts, the current is very high. In the earlier LEDs, we had only 10-20 milliamps light current flowing through that. But today we have nearly 300 to 400 milliamps flowing through the LED to give us 1 watt of LED power. So it requires that in the normal LED we have first let's come to the chip part. Now chip is not simple PN junction. It has got multiple layers. It's a more complex than that. So you have a P layer, then active region where the holes and electrons combine, then N layer, also substrate, and then anode. And from the substrate to N layer, there's a gradual lattice matching structure is built so that this sapphire lattice match as well as the indium gallium nitride, the active layer, they should be able to stick to each other and not separate out. And then they, even if you see further inside, even more complex. Every layer itself consists of multiple layers here. So you have the P semiconductor itself has multiple quantum wells there. Then you have electron blocker layer here, so the electrons don't overflow and then miss the combination, whole combination. Then you have emitting layer. Then so when the light is formed, it must have a refractive index conducive to it, so that it can start coming out easily. It should not get trapped inside. So the optical refractive index and other things also important. All those things are there. So you can see there's a huge amount. The sapphire substrate, aluminum nitride buffer layer, and then the N layer. So it's a very complex structure. So nowadays, then lots of IP is built around it, and not many people can make a very good LEDs now. And as I said, now we need higher power to be, and the LEDs, the normal incandescent bulb has got 3% efficiency, 97% is heat. You get only 12 lumens for every 1 watt of input on an incandescent bulb. But once you move to LED, you are able to get 160 lumens per watt. So instead of this 3%, now we get 35% as a light output. That means still 60% is the heat remaining inside the LED. In case of incandescent, it was hot, so the heat could have taken place. It runs at 2700 degrees centigrade. But in case of LEDs, the heat is absorbed by the chip, and then instantly its whole radiative recombination capacity falls. Also, in the long term, its life itself falls. The defects in the crystal, they start propagating fast, and then the life of the LED itself becomes limited. So what do we need to do? Now we have to see that the heat is removed out as soon as it's created. So we have to create one more path for the heat, and that is the heat sink here. So within the LED, under the chip, there's a heat slug, either aluminum or copper is created, and through which the heat will come out. And you can see that the slug slightly protrudes beyond the plastic body. So that means it can easily touch the copper layer, which you have on the track. And if the copper layer is instead of 35 ohms, you can have 70 ohms copper track. And also what we have is metal core PCB beyond that. So if you see the structure of the LED, how it evolved, initially we had only 2 leads LED, and they had iron leads. That's the strange part. This is the best example of Japanese value engineering. When you are supplying only 20 milliamps, you don't need copper there. So and then but how do you get the bonding and other things? They did silver plating on top of that, and then still created all the characteristics which could meet a mill grade component specification. And then here you can see that thermal resistance is 250 kilo K per watt. That means if you had pumped 1 watt of power, the junction temperature would go to 250 degrees. But we never saw LEDs melting there. Why? Because we never pumped 1 watt. We were pumping only 10 milliamps into 2 volts. So 20 milliwatts was the power pumping. So the junction went out by 20 into 250, around 5 degrees only, right? Then we added, because we wanted to have more power, then we added, converted the leads into 2 leads into 4 leads. Also made them into copper. You can see here in the B picture here. Then we added some extended lead frame to increase the surface radiation losses. And then we added a slug here, which is the one which I showed now, heat sink slug under the LED. And then we put the whole thing on a metal core PCB. Now we all know about normal PCBs, which is a copper track with a FR4 glass epoxy below that. but then now we have aluminum-based PCB. That means copper track on top, aluminum on the bottom, and because they should not short each other, there is a thin dielectric layer of 100 microns in between the aluminum and this. So this way, the path for the heat is minimal resistance to the very thin dielectric layer, and then it gets spread to the aluminum sheet, and then the whole thing is fixed on a heat sink, and then thing. So here is a cross-sectional view. You can see the LED here, and then it's put on a aluminum substrate, a metal core PCB, and then what you can see here is TIM. In between the LED and the PCB is the thermal interface material. Now, suppose you put two surfaces together, and the micro voids are there, and they fill with air, and air is a very bad conductor. So to remove that bad conductor, we need to have a very good thermal transmission. We use the thermal interface metal, which is nothing but alumina in some medium, and then they form the this thing on that. Then we have the this is excellent way to see the performance difference in the two types. On the left side, yellow is the 5 mm LEDs traditional with iron leads, and you can see that the how light normal LEDs don't fail. So how do we measure the life? We see the light intensity as it falls along the time. The x-axis is time, and the vertical is the intensity of the LED brightness. And initially at 0 it's 100%, then but it comes down to 5,000 hours within 50%. In 5,000 hours it will reach 50%. This is the average of the LED. A bad LED could be even badly made LED, I would say, could be even less than 2,000 hours, and then the best also will not exceed more than 12 to 15,000 hours. But same thing when you come to this blue phase, you can see that even the worst LED which is made at L70, earlier days we used to measure 50% light fall, but nowadays we discard the LED after it reaches 70% of the initial light. So we call it L70, life at 70% intensity. So you can see that even the worst case it reaches 30,000 hours, and the average is generally 50,000 hours. And the best guys who know the trade, who have used the right materials and the right process, they would even exceed few lakhs of hours. So this is basically brings us to that, and this is how the LED thermal system is managed. The LEDs on the top, then the metal core PCB on the bottom, and then very much at the bottom is the regular anodized heat sink. And this is a thermal graph of it. You can see the chip on the top, and rightly under the chip is the maximum heat. And then as you go along the fins, then the temperature falls, and at the other end of the fins, there are hardly any temperature. And this briefly is a summary of the system, LED system. One is we have talked about LED with thermal interface material and the heat sink. That is a thermal path. Then the electrical path is next is the electrical path. So we have plus and minus, and the whole thing is there is something called LED driver. Now LEDs are only 3 volts. Our traditional power supplies are 220 volts AC, or a battery of 12 volts, which can vary from discharge from 11 volts to fully charged 13.5 volts, or lithium battery, which could be 3.7 to 4.2 volts. So there something has to come in electronically to drive this LED. So that voltage transformation is one issue, and also most of the LEDs, they have a varying voltage. Like in a normal silicon diode, you have 0.6 to 0.7 volts variation. Here we have 2.9 to 3 to 3.3 volts variation. So how do you make a power supply? If I make a power supply of 3.3 volts, the 2.9 volts LED will burn off. And if it is a 2.9 volts power supply, it cannot glow the 3.3 volts LED. So what we do is we produce a higher voltage LED power supply and limit the current to the set current. Most of the LEDs, 0.2 watt LEDs are 60 milliamps, half watt LEDs are 150 milliamps, and 1 watt LEDs are 150 milliamps into 6 volts, 2 LEDs in series. So the power supplies are made, and there could be several series parallel combinations of LEDs, and the current is set as per that, and the voltage is as per the highest voltage of the possible LED thing. And this is a short picture of how the LEDs is made. Most of you have seen LEDs, but SMD LEDs now the most popular size here. Of the total LEDs sold, probably 90% are this size. All the lighting LEDs are used here. Here we have 0.2 watt, half watt, and 1 watt LEDs inside this. It's called a 2835 package. And this on the back side, you see one big electrode and a small electrode. The small one is the anode, bigger one is cathode, on which the chip, which you have put on the other side, the heat comes to this pad directly. And then this will touch your copper track. And then the heat is transmitted out of the LED, basically. As a manufacturer, my job is to give you a path, a location from where to extract the LED, right? And this is on the right side, you see the chips. There are around 20,000 LED chips on the right side. You can see the fine dots there, right? And on the left side, LED as it's a long bar with the anode and cathode marked on this. And below that is the adhesive, which is again a very high quality silicon adhesive, which can withstand the high energy blue light bombardment for 25 years and still not break down. All other plastics, most of the epoxies, they'll break down within 1 year, 2 years. This silicon epoxy can withstand that kind of this thing, the quality. It's from Dow Corning, basically. And then you can see the housing. As the chip as it is, you cannot handle it. So we have to put them in a package such a way that the terminals are big enough for you to handle and use. So on the left side, you see the basically how the package looks. There's an anode and cathode pads are there. Then LED chip will come on one of the pads. But then to handle each small chip is very difficult, each package. So we put them in a lead frame form. They're all molded and touching each other, but with lightest twist or something, they'll all fall off. Very easy to separate from each other. They are just hanging by a small metal point. And then here we have put the chip and silicon. First we put the silicon dot, and then on which we put the chip. It's all done very automatically with a die bonding machines, which can accurately place them. It can correct themselves. We talk about face recognition now, but we have pattern recognition for the last 20 years in all our machines. They'll just go and put it at the right designated after you do the teaching part, and then they'll remember that, and then later they can automatically correct it. If the chip is at an angle, or if the body is at a different angle, still it will go and put them all properly. So there's a lot of artificial intelligence there. And then next step is to make these two bonds, the wire bonds, from the anode to self pad, and one from the cathode to the other side. So this is done using a thermosonic bonding. You can see that there's a capillary through which the wire comes through, and the wire is molten into a drop using an electric spark. The whole thing comes down onto the pad. Then there's heat applied from the chip from bottom. That means as long as the lead frame is on the stand, it is getting heated up from bottom, and then the high amplitude ultrasonic frequency applied to the pads, and few atomic layers of this pad and the gold wire bond, they coalesce and they become a bond. And the bond is so strong that when you pull this wire, the wire will break, but not the adhesive, the bonded point. So this is how the whole process works. Let us not go into that. And now the LED, now we need white LED. But here you can see that the LED, what we have put there is blue LED, because all LEDs are monochromatic. As a chip, I can only get one color, that is blue LED. Then we add a phosphor on top of it. So we take silicon, again very good quality silicon, which can withstand the blue energy bombardment, and then we add a phosphor in it. It is a yak phosphor or a nitrate phosphor, this thing, which will absorb, which are tuned to absorb this 455 nanometers blue wavelength and give out green and yellow and red outputs, basically. But mostly it's a wide band output. So just one phosphor plus one blue chip will give you white LED of fairly good CRA of 70% brightness. So this is how it looks after I have filled the chip top with this. Just give me a ప్రసాద్ గారు, నేను ఒక మీటింగ్ లో ఉన్నానండి. లెక్చర్ ఇంకో 1 hour ఉంటుంది.
పర్లేదు, ఒక్క మాట చెప్తాను.
చెప్పండి.
మీరు ఒక మెసేజ్ పెట్టారు రిజినల్ గ్రూప్ లో.
ఓకే,
దాన్ని కాపీ చేసి ఇంకా దాంట్లో
అదే కొంచెం మీరు మోడిఫై చేసి ఇచ్చాను.
బాగుంది. పెట్టేసేయండి పెట్టేసేయండి.
నేను లేను తర్వాత.
మీరే పెట్టండి, తర్వాత పెట్టండి. ఎందుకంటే
షూర్. Sorry, you are able to see all this, right, sir? Hello?
Yeah, we are able to see.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, there's no audio feedback or no visual feedback also, right? So after this, when we cure it, it will look like this. We can barely make out the chip inside, right? You can chip and the 2 wires and the whole thing covered by this, and you can slightly see the pads also, metal pad behind, right? And then this is as it comes on the front side, anode and cathode. And this is a place where we do the binning. All LEDs are fed into a automatic sorting machine, and then each LED is you can see on the left side is a black color box. It's a Ocean Optics spectrometer. The light will glow when it comes under that, and then all the data is collected by the computer and then sorted into 3 groups: voltage 1, voltage 2, voltage 3, that is 2.9 to 3, 3 to 3.2, 3.2 to 3.4, and then also intensities, say 27 lumens, 28 lumens, 29 lumens, color also 6000 CCT, 6500 CCT, 6000. And then the combinations, A, B, C combinations, they are put into different bins. So you can see there are several pipes all around. So the computer will decide that this belongs to 5th bin, and then when the LED turns around and goes to that 5th bin, it is pushed out with the air blow, and then we collect all the LEDs of one type and one size, one uniform characteristics in one bin. Then this when the LEDs go to the next stage, they go for SMT assembly, surface mount technology. So we have to provide them in tapes, which could be handled by the machine itself. So this is a machine which fills the LEDs into the tapes, basically. And these are, you can see that they are in the reel, right? There are cups, and the cup LED is put, and then there's a sticky layer on top to close it. So on the left side, you'll see the blue LED without the phosphor. On the right side, after the phosphor is filled, we test them. It will give you white color. And this is basically the kind of machines which you see. They are highly automatic, highly intelligent machines. They can take care of themselves once the input is given to them, and then they can be programmed very easily, change settings, and then they produce almost 25,000 to 50,000 LEDs per hour. In 1 hour, they'll process so many years. And this is all a clean room, completely dust-free. It's overkill, but actually we have taken care that we don't want any variation because of other issues, so that we know what factors are really at play in case I get a defective LED. So the in-process testing also we can do right away, right? So those are things. Right, so that brings us to the main topic. Now, LEDs could be used for many ways, because ultimately photobiological and catalytic, there are several things are affected by the light. But we need to know what is a particular wavelengths affect these particular processes separately, both biological as well as this. So you can see on the left side, there's a list of things. The disinfection LEDs, which use UVC LEDs. I think all of you, by this COVID time, everybody knows that UVC LED, UVC, the UV which is far UV, that is around 254 nanometers or 270 nanometers. In case of LEDs, we go for 270 nanometers LED because they have the higher efficiency than 254 nanometers wavelength. This is an important thing. The germicidal effectiveness of LED emitting 270 nanometers, 265 nanometers has almost 30% higher than the same power of UVC at 254 nanometer, which is a traditional mercury lamp. The next is Hortigrow full spectrum LEDs. We know that light is required for the growth of plant, chlorophyll, right? But the scientists have done so much work that they have found out that particular wavelengths can affect particular characteristics in the light. And then when you are growing plants indoor, then you can completely do away with the sunlight, give your hydroponics or whatever it is, give nutrients to the LED light to the plants, and then put these LED lights of particular wavelength. You get excellent this thing, and you can not only that, you can change the color of the plant. You can shorten the 3 months crop into 1 month crop, and then you can also increase the nutrients and in the LED itself. So there's in the plant itself. So there are various things are possible with the LEDs thanks to the advent of LEDs. This is how possible, because earlier they were making using lamps, no doubt, but then they had huge spectrum which could not be controlled, right? And they had to waste some power into the other unused spectrum. But in case of LED, you can put all the power into one spectrum, which of you like, and then focus it on the target place. The other one is fast cure UV LED. You all know that nowadays in the printing and many inks and all, or adhesives, many places, the chemical reaction can be catalyzed. Instead of hardener, you can go for UV catalysis. This is a near UV, basically for 385, 365, 400 nanometers LEDs. So it's become a very important process within when you are getting high quality printings, glossy printings and all. You don't want the smudging to happen by the time the paper comes out. So that curing, when it's printing, right after printing, perfect curing is required. So this high quality gloss remains there. So it becomes a very important application for some of the critical industries. Then insect call UV LED. These are names which we have created so that the LED could be very clearly, the function will be known from the name itself. So in the crops, you have the insects which keep destroying them. Then you must have seen that several people use a light bulb and then a trap to attract these LCs and kill them. And then that can be further improved, and a lot of study has been done by scientists here. And then probably I'll be able to present that also today. Then you have skin made. So on the skin, you have this bully or vitiligo on the skin. It can be cured by UVB light, this thing. And also we all know that light enables vitamin D to be produced in your body. And also you have UVA, which can give you tanning, and also many vital functions can be happen on the using light on that. Then inspection, non-destructive inspection. Very, very fine cracks are possible inside when you do the machining or hardening. And then to get them to be visible, you need to have again UV LEDs with which will be able to detect the smallest difference after the device is subjected to certain tests. Then you can get rid of all the algae in the fish ponds and the pisciculture. I think the algae are the biggest enemies for the thing. They eat away all the food which is you give for the shrimps and other things. So again, to kill them, again UV is a very great source there. So both the algae as well as this, and then the vitamin D we all just now we talked. And then studio light LEDs. Again, this is again specialized kind of LED. When a art director in a film chooses a color, a combination of colors, he would like the audience to see that color perfectly, the same way as you can see with your normal eyes. So when you capture that photograph, then you need to see that all the light colors are captured by the camera. that means the source which falls on the color on this particular dress or setting, it should have all the colors so that all the colors can be reflected. So that means the CRI, color rendering index of the LED, becomes very important there. So we produce high CRI LEDs, 90 plus CRI, 95 CRI LEDs, which can reproduce the color actually. Suppose you have a blue-red cloth, and then your shop lies only red light, which is a halogen light. Then the blue ratio will not be visible. So when you go out, you will see the blue enhanced because the sunlight can. So same way, it happens in the studio lights for the shops, especially when even in the shop lighting, again, high CRI becomes very important. This is first application. Let us come to the human beings himself. Now, we all get up with the sun and sleep with the sun, and then the light is the one which triggers your circadian rhythm. You can see that there is a secretion of testosterone and melatonin. You can see production of melatonin begins at 9 p.m. Your body starts secreting melatonin, which makes you the intestinal movement stop at 10:30 p.m. and you get into deeper sleep. Then minimal 4:30 p.m. In the a.m. in the morning, your body is the lowest temperature. Then at 6:45, sharp rise in blood pressure. See, you should never check your BP after you get up. That will be the highest BP. So you will get a wrong notion. So these are all the side effects of any research. So you will be able to know so many interesting things. And then at 7:30, the melatonin stops. So now, how is it connected? The blue light, it suppresses melatonin. So people keep telling you don't see your laptop or phone in the night. The reason is most of the monitors, they have LEDs all around. So because LCD itself you cannot see. There is nothing called a LED TV. All LED TVs are LCD TV only. All LED TVs are LCD TV. Only the internal light source, which is essential for any LCD to function, to be visible. Earlier it was a tube light, cold cathode tubes. Now it has been replaced by LED. So Samsung and LG have hijacked this name. They have put this thing. The LED value is only not even 1% in the whole TV, right? So, but anyway, so that very clearly brings out the reason. And then because we start always with the blue LED, because it's the highest efficient material which LED emitting, light emitting material. Earlier we have gallium phosphide, we have aluminum, indium gallium phosphide, the red based and yellow based. But blue LED is the highest efficiency. So we take the blue LED and it's a high energy. We convert that into lower energy using the phosphor, and that's Stokes law. And as per that, then we are able to get our white light. So there is always some blue there, and it has this effect. But of course, they are not harmful, and there are many other factors also come in. But this is the basic thing we need to understand. So this is how your ambient light looks like when you're in the day. In the mornings, sun is like this. In the afternoon, the bright sun is in bluish. Then again you have yellowish. So this light system has effect on the right side. You can see it has effect on the liver, adrenal, and heart. So the pacemaker, the internal body, is connected with the sun and the light. So our receptors in the eyes, they give signal to this pacemaker. Pacemaker starts working the liver and all. So you can imagine that if you confuse your receptor and the master pacemaker, your body functions can easily get damaged, out of sync. So this light, you can see that in the mornings, short of right light, when alert tends to rip. In the offices in the afternoon, suppose you give a blue shot, they will wake up and work when it is. So the brightness and other things. The light can mitigate symptoms of Alzheimer's, depression, sleep deprivation, jet lag, etc. Even for jet lag. This week we had interns from Biotechnology Department of Weltech University, and they have taken up the project of wellness lighting, grow light, wellness lighting, and they are now applying this light. They have taken it back to their campus. They have put it on an EEG, electroencephalograph, and then see the effect, and they are able to record that also, the effect of the light on the brain waves, basically. So, of course, all this depends on what is the quantity of the light you are giving, what is the spectrum of the light, what is the color spectrum or mix of the colors, what is the timing, how long you are putting, the duration, and when you are putting. The timing again depends on the day, time of the day, because it's connected with circadian, and then distribution of light. How is it you are brightening the background or brightening the foreground, all those things. Suppose you have you are in a room, and then you have all the light falling on your table, but then there's no light falling on the walls or ceiling. You still feel very dark and clumsy, right? So again, the distribution of light again makes a lot of difference in the psychology. So blue spectrum is one that mainly affects melatonin levels. Red spectrum is one doesn't impact melatonin, but it is shown to improve subjective and objective measures of alertness. So again, during post-lunch dip in energy, we all have a dip in energy post-lunch, and then you can have even blue and red also together if you understand these scientific papers and scientific research done, right? So let us just this is a summary. So we can design lighting in such a way. Today it's IoT age, smart lighting age. It's so easy to put a small intelligent device like an Arduino or Atmega microcontroller, and then feed this program into that, and then you can make every lamp to go as per these requirements, and then you have a much more productive and happy this thing, right? So we can improve sleep. We can improve even sleep is also can be improved, right? And then studies of office workers with best possible view of natural light perform between 10 to 25% better on tests of mental function and memory recall. And there's a very clear-cut proof here, right? So then we have UVA. Yeah. Now we are talking about vitamin D. Nowadays, you find that vitamin D is required for during COVID times to take care of to improve your immunity. So you have this light in case you are not able to withstand that harsh solar light, or then you have this clinics where you can put these lights on and then sit in front of them, right? And then you all know the young children, the bilirubin is always there in the incubators, right? There's a blue LED light. Earlier there was blue lamps were being put. Now we have blue LEDs for quite long time. And also it prevents the damage to brain tissue. So then also it comes to mute. Beyond that, also sometimes you would like to be elevated or this thing, then all those things can be warm colors. They give you certain kind of mood, and then cool colors. So we all know when they start talking about this when you're painting your house freshly, right? So but instead of that, you can also have these colors built in. So the enhanced blue gets reflected from your walls, enhanced red gets reflected from your walls. So by using your same light, which has multiple colors, RGB inside, and with the right kind of control, your app control or preset controls, you can start getting set your mood as per the time of the day or your function. If you're relaxing, how do you do? If you're working, what is kind of light you need? So these are all some details of that. What kind of things are not right. So now we come to the next interesting part. That is which is very important for us, the food. And we are all worried about pesticides. We all talk about organic foods. We all want fresh food. We don't want stale food. All these things will come to know. All this is possible thanks to one product called LED. Now you find that people have done a lot of research on what causes chlorophyll formation in the plants, and on the bottom side, on the top side on the left, you can see the main thing. The blue of around 450, 420, and red of 500, 600, 660, and 730. They have excellent they are the ones which are really required for the plant. But of course, later people have also found that even these phycoerythrin or carotenoids also required, so they also need partly green and other colors. But real function happens because during a root stage or this thing, and you can see that various 380, 390, they guide the plant flowering. So you can easily micro control the plant's function. So you can control the flowering, you can control the leaf growth, you can control the rooting, you can improve the quality of the root, right? So many things are possible. So, and then most important, you can see this in yellow, it shows increase in nutritional content and trace elements just by showing light. So it's you don't have to mine these elements from the earth, clean them, or beneficiation. All those things are not required. You just let the plant make it itself, right? You don't have to feed synthetic nutrient to that. And this is how the germicidal action of the LED is used. And then not only germicidal, it also porphyrins is the one which is important for the in every human being or living being. It's there, and we use in fact this porphyrins to even kill the bacteria. Action on porphyrins. Later we'll come to that. So our amyloid aggregation and synaptic toxicity in the brain, these are photoexcited porphyrins. They help you to reduce them. So that means all you have to do is put on a light, right light at the right time in the required doses, and you got it. So some of you who are entrepreneurial type here and who also are able to understand biology and other things, probably they should give a lot of papers must be available here on this topic, and you can start looking at it and make simple lights. After all, making LED light is very simple. You just put 10 LEDs in series, give a power supply, it's on. But all you have to do is just give it. Only you have to prescribe to whom and who should use it, right? And here they have shown how the actual experimental form of the same thing in the therapy. Right? See, deposits of beta amyloid in full fruit flies stopped by using porphyrin and blue LED lights. It's an excellent answer for Alzheimer's. Then LEDs do not emit harmful LEDs. See, one is now we talked about how safe LEDs was. I think 2 years ago there was a lot of controversy and all, but now it's all right because anything in higher quantity is always bad. So even sunlight you cannot see with your eyes, but you cannot wish away the sun, right? Same way LEDs also excessive blue or something. Definitely some will act on your cornea, some will act on the retina, but then we don't use that color all the time. But it is required as part of the everyday life. You need, without blue you cannot have a proper life at all. So, and then they don't have any UV. Now you have seen that in every LED we start with a 450 nanometers LED and put a phosphor, right? So that means there is this is blue color is okay. So there is no UV inside that. Unlike the mercury lamps or CFL, you have internally the mercury discharge lamp. So always UV is coming out, and this UV is blocked on the surface by the coating, 3-phosphor coating, the mixture of white phosphor, yellow phosphor, RGB. So the red, green, and blue phosphors. They partly convert this UV into their own colors, but the eye will see them as white color because of the eye property. But then there could be some UV definitely which passes through all this and coming out. So at least it has a property of having a UV near when you go very near to that. But here there is no UV in the starting itself, right? So, but then it has been found that this color, this blue color, is highly capable of attracting cyclic pests, and the peak in the blue wavelength spectrum, which can lure mosquitoes, flies, sand flies, all insects capable of transmitting vector-borne diseases. So we can definitely use this to enhance the collect all these places in one place and either zap them or trap them. Right? Zap with a high voltage and then, or trap them in the water. So okay, this is all not required. Now let me take you to where am I? I'm showing somewhere. Or am I here only? I have too many windows open. You can see that I am a multitasker. I want to show you something. I think we are here. Right. We're the same window. I'm audible, right? Okay. Yeah, we have this website called uvcledonline.com. uvcledonline.com. In the blogs, you can see several articles, white papers on this. So one is we talked about grow lights, and then you can see the I think what a presentation we have done there. And then let me see if I have the other one. Yeah, the insect moth trap. Now we talked about collecting insects. Now the biggest problem is the pests in the farms. We see lots of them being sold. And also when you're sitting outside in your lawn for an evening tea or drink, the pests keep pestering you. So for that we have to use this kind of stuff. Now you can see the spectral wavelength which eye is visible. For the eyes we see only from 400 to and with and as our green we look it as our eye detector sees it as 1, and the blue and red it will see it as 1/100. So that's it. And when it comes to the insects, they can see a lot of this 300 to 400 nanometer light, and then they are not very sharp in measuring within these things. So this is the spectral sensitivity of Culex pipiens compound eye. So what colors they can see? So they can see 350 as a maximum, and also they also can see green. So if I use these two colors,
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Your slides are not visible, sir.
oh, you are not able to see this page.
Yeah, we are not seeing.
It's a page, not a slide.
Yeah, not seen, sir.
Okay, then I must come back. Then I must ask for present now. Okay. I ask for present. Is it now visible? The graph?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, not yet.
No, both are the same window. It means that I must move.
You have to share the screen.
Yeah. Okay, I have to also press the word share. Can you see this now?
But not yet, sir.
Not yet. So what is this technology?
Open the slide window, then it will be visible to all.
Yeah, I opened that window which I am seeing.
Sir, you minimize this window, sir. Just click
I
on the
minimize
bottom
this one. This is where we all are there, right?
Yes, sir. Minimize, sir. That is, we are seeing that.
Now,
Blank,
Can you
sir,
see?
blank.
it's
Sir,
blank.
excuse me, sir. Gupta
Yeah.
sir, first you have to stop the presenting window. After that, again you go to the present now. Again, then it will be appearing on the screen, sir. I am sorry for interruption.
No, exactly. That's what there's some little technique.
First stop the presentation, sir.
First I
First,
stop
whatever
presenting.
you are presenting.
Now I stop presenting. Now I'll say present now, and I press the window, right? There are three options. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay. We are able to see this?
Yes, sir.
Right,
Now
sir,
you are
right.
clear.
Yeah, now we are able to see.
Sorry. So this, here you can see this how the eyes of this insect. This is the left one. This is insect, and this is our human eye. We see the colors between 500 to 600, and where the insect sees a lot of UV light. So, and then this is the spectral sensitivity of Culex mosquito. And then you can see that they has sensitivity to 350 nanometers and also 550 nanometers. That means if I have a lamp sitting next to me, and then they'll attract far away from me, all the insects will get attracted to this particular lamp and not to myself. And like they have done a test with several wavelengths here, and this is a actually method of checking arriving at the right scientific way of arriving at what happens with them. And then you can see that in particular lamp, this particular lamp type, the green is more right. So this is a typical, you can see this? Hello?
Yeah, we are able to see.
Right.
Sir, yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a typical,
We can see.
yeah. A typical insect trap here. You have a lamp in the center and then the collecting container, and there's sometimes some chemical also under the container. And this is what you can easily fabricate inside here in any village or any typical home. And you can see that these are various colors which are in this case we are talking about a particular moth called Deilephalia elepinor. Similarly, every insect has a slightly different characteristics. A lot of work has been done, and every insect's sensitivity has been very well plotted, and it is there. So the lamp can be tailored for each and every particular moth. Within, suppose you have got 10 moths flying in your farm, you can catch dangerous moth you can collect and then leave away the beneficial moth. These are, again, this insect detection. These are by scientists called Langevelde, and this insect visual. This is what we already covered. This is also covered. Yeah, you can see that Frankiniella occidentalis. This thing, it will has maximum attraction at 20% of frequency is at UVA, and then nearly 30% frequency at the green color. This has been all very well established scientifically and easy to establish also. And you can see that this particular thing, Frankiniella occidentalis, it is attracted more to the blue, 467 nanometers. So again, it's not one single color which will work. So by doing scientifically, you can definitely create things which are missing. And this with the green yellow this thing. And this is again one more big trap for a very large moth population. Right, so we have finished these two, yeah. So that brings us to the end of the session. I could keep on showing a lot of things. There's a lot of information, more than 1,000 files are there with me. And it's my passion to keep reading every day and learn everything. And then there's so much to learn in this world. Even at this age of I'm 67 now, after 40 years in this line of LEDs. I really find it very accurate. So many things left undone. There's like to make so many products, so many different applications, and develop so many things. I really love teaching, and then like we had 4 groups of students from Weltec University doing their project today. I actually wanted to show you how they made this tabletop kitchen light. LEDs, they have done excellent. They also put intelligence into that. Within a short span of within 1 month, they have done that. Of course, lots of material is available at the factory, and also they had good guidance, so they were able to do that. And so similarly, we'd like to see that a lot of your students do all these applications into practical use. All it requires is one LED strip of particular wavelength and putting it nicely. There's, I think, a lot of mechanical work involved here. So industrial design becomes a very, very important thing in our industry. So pure electronics will not be sufficient for electronic engineers also. Now they have to convert their ideas into industrial design using industrial design. So a mechanical and electronic student combination would work beautifully, I suppose. You see that from China, you see hundreds of gadgets, so beautifully finished, so nice looking, but inside all khokla. A UV LED will not be UV. A 100 rupees UV LED, they'll substitute with a 2 rupees UVA LED. Similarly, things will be so bad, but then external finish is so good. They are able to get the molds so well, things are so well, everything done. So I hope that in India we'll be able to, industry-wise, we'll do that. And then maybe IIT also could take up courses on 3D printing, so that will nurture some CAD awareness, and in turn give them a push to start looking at finishing products. Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, it's nice, sir. We'll leave the session for any questions, sir, for 10 minutes, sir.
Absolutely, sure. The subject is wide and fast, so only through questions we can cover any gaps.
Sir, I have a question. Am I audible, sir?
Yes.
Yeah. It was a very nice presentation, sir, and it is nice hearing you. Second time we are listening. It's excellent presentation you have made, and most of the topic which you have covered, and today they are relevant also. Sir, I have only one question. That is, we hear nowadays OLED. Always I get confused with OLED. And second one is, you told that backlit LED, though the TV screens are called LED screens, but they are actually LCDs, and backlit there will be some LEDs will be there. But same thing when it comes to laptop, we don't see that much thickness. How they are managing? Is it all, they are also backlit LEDs there, or it's something different?
Actually, they are called edge-lit LEDs, and we use a technology called light pipe. So when you push the light into the thin acrylic sheet, the light gets trapped inside. It cannot come out because of the total interreflection. Like you all know fiber optics, right? In a fiber optic, you are able to confine the light without leaking out and travel any number of lengths. That's because of total internal reflection. Same thing here also. But then we want the light to come out also, right? You want a whole screen to be properly lit. So we create very fine, tiny disturbances on the glass, on the acrylic sheet. And there are very few disturbances on very close to the LED. There are many more notches in the center of the strip. In a algorithmic manner, they have been done so that the light which breaks out due to this disturbance will be uniform. When there are a lot of photons impinging on the closer to the edges, so there we have less disturbance. So few photons will come out, and then in the center, there are a lot of very few photons are reaching center, and then there we create so much disturbance that all photons are able to come out. So we create some kind of uniformity. Again, it requires a lot of mathematics, a lot of work done, but then yeah, that's how it is. So it's a light pipe type arrangement. So all, this is a very old technology, not more than 10, 20, 30 years old, but it's been there. So that's why even your old laptops, they are not very thick. So LED has made it much more thick. In LED, we are able to make them 1.4 mm thick width only, edge LED.
Yes. Sir, what is OLED, sir?
OLED is organic LED. Now we are talking about all inorganic, right? 3-5 compounds, gallium, indium, and the other side is arsenic, phosphorus, and nitrate. So these are inorganic materials. But organic material also can emit light when they take energy, and then they can emit light. But then the brightness and other things are not all that efficient, and then also they tend to get spoiled very easily because they cannot be handled in the atmosphere. So they are all best suited for a because they are so difficult to make. They're best suited for display. So now all your you are heard about Samsung using MOLED for last 7-8 years, and then you heard now Apple coming out with OLEDs for last 2-3 years, right? So these organic LEDs are active matrix organic LED. In case of Samsung, AMOLED they call it, AMOLED. So there is a technology which is very well suited for the display technology. But yeah, it's also emitting light. Exactly. Using organic material.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I have one question. Anupam Tiwari from Hyderabad Center.
Anupam ji, boliye.
Sir, one question that you said there are LEDs which can repel insects. So can we have LED which will repel birds?
Actually, I didn't give you any examples of repulsion here because most of the time the thing is to call them to one place and then catch them. We all know about the blue color. I don't have ready examples of this right now, but it's very easy. Today, Google is there, and if you ask the right question for Google in the right place and with the full thing, you can simply ask the exactly same question. Which LED color or which spectrum will repel birds or which spectrum will repel the insects? I think you can easily get at least 100 papers on it if they are there, and then definitely you can make a nice review paper on this, and you should share it with all of us. Anupam ji, right?
Hello, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Sorry, good morning, sir. I have a question. Am I audible, sir?
Sure. Surya ji,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Sir, like I would like, as you said, now we are having everywhere the smart systems using IoT. We can do it. Everything we can make it smart using the IoT technology. So I'm having a question about the UG and MTech project, sir, for the students.
A college indeed?
BIT, Bharat Institute of Engineering and Technology, Hyderabad.
Right. Okay.
I would like to know about, I just wanted to know, sir, the projects.
Right. Again, thanks to Google, you can get at least 100 sites which people have made their own projects and then given detailed slide-by-slide analysis of how they have done it, how to do it, a lot of circuits and how the explanations happen. So these are things available very easily everywhere. And of course, it's for the student to now to select what he wants to do and then do it. Of course, in our case, because it's they are come to LED factory, they have selected LED-based projects. So it's very easy. I think MTech students, I think they can take a longer and bigger projects and then take up one of these studies and try to maximize it. You can see, you know that even visible LED can kill the bacteria. Very light LEDs also kill bacteria. They may not be able to kill COVID, but they can kill bacteria. So many good applications are there. Absolutely.
But I think in the near future, I think we don't know, like some student may come with some technology which can kill corona.
Yeah.
COVID also, right, sir? Hope so.
It already is there. The 270 nanometers UVC LED which we supply, you can see on the website also. They are used extensively for killing COVID and corona boxes or even the lighting for the rooms also. But then they has to have this intelligence to shut themselves out as soon as somebody approaches them. So you have a proximity sensor or a macro sensor or a radar sensor which will see the movement or people and then shut them also. So that way it's very well being done. So Harjinder sir.
Sir, related question is, sorry for disturbance.
No problem. Please tell me.
So one simple question, one more related question. Sir, because this is LED and all, it is related to electronics and communication branch. Because since IoT is involved in this, I think the other branches like computer science and engineering, IT and all, they can do the projects, right, sir?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
See, whatever they're doing, most of the time when they come to the project, probably they don't know a lot of things and it's all cross-disciplinary activity. So what you learn in the class is nothing. So you must have passion. Your students should have learned from the year one itself to do projects, to learn about project, give some assignments in the class. You let them give some lectures on the class on the various topics like what we are doing today. And then that way their ability to learn will increase. And then overnight they are so good, they are clever. The young minds are really good. Only they need to be channelized properly. And they can come out learn so much faster than what they do in the class. Basically, they are amazing.
It's like project based.
Yeah.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir. You can continue.
No, my question is also in a form of suggestion. What Madam Suryaji has been asking, as you are saying that this domain of expertise in the technology is also required. Domain knowledge of little bit on the mechanical side also. So mechatronic is another branch today, which is this one. Those students should be through the IIT and your industry. I feel we can come together and then try to help them for their project work and also for their so-called internship, because internship is also a very important aspect which is now made a compulsory. So this venture can be taken in that sense, that a certain amount of and both together, IIT and your industry coming together for taking this up. And the people who are also doing a lot of work on the, let us say, MEMS and other things can also be involved in that, so that you can make around these LEDs and other mechanical on the same chip and other things and make a system around. That will be a very good so-called project work for those with an internship for this one. So I think IIT Hyderabad can take a lead along with you.
Yeah, Harjinder ji. I think the internship concept is there very much, but the weakest link here is the lack of interest in the faculty and the people. So when you take up a project, there's a lot of in-depth knowledge can be going up. So if there is a lab technician who knows this very well and they can pass it on this half-done project to the next batch, so you can't expect a lot of attention from them. In the fourth year, they're so busy with their gate exams or foreign exams.
I understand. I understand. That's what is happening is, I have both the experience, one from the R&D coming, and also I spent time in engineering college also. And the students are also wanting to find an easy path out, that they will go out and try the project and try to say, they will come with the list to the HOD and say that which project is good and another thing. But to give them this one, so interest has to be created. And interest can only be created through the faculty only. Okay? But you have to do something with your own hand, whether it is a small or big thing, that only the real project, not something which what you do. So there can be two levels of this work which we can take up along with IIT and industry like yours. That first is the motivating some of the faculty members. If it is a training to the trainers. That type of concept we can bring it, so that we can have activities and create interest and generate interest and create certain faculty groups like that who will take up this type of this one, and they will motivate the student to take up this project, because I cannot give more than what I have. So naturally, it's the faculty who is going to motivate, and they are the people who are going to give them lots of that. So their word is much more important. So it has to be done probably at the two level.
Actually, I've been associated with Industry Academy Interaction for last more than 10-15 years. Our factory is open for students' visits without even my permission at the top. Any time of the day, without my permission also. They can get a free tour of the college, of the institution. I also go and give lectures. Right now, today, yesterday and today, I had given 2 lectures in the Welltech University for the 3-credit course on LED applications. And I was visiting faculty with them. Now it's online, luckily. Otherwise, I would have been traveling to that. And this way, I'm very happy to. But then you also don't have a lot of entrepreneurs who are ready to take this headache onto them. Say somebody third party coming and sitting in your factory and then disturbing your people, and then somebody need to teach them, right? So there's nobody to teach them also. So they have to learn on their own. So these are issues which has to be tackled, and some kind of mentoring and some kind of things have to happen.
Yeah,
so this structure has to be really brought out. I think IIT can have a one day seminar.
May I add on here?
Pradeep,
Professor Prabhakar, the Vice President of IIT. It was a very fascinating talk you gave, and rather it reminds me of our MTech days. Because BTech, subject was not taught earlier, but MTech we have gone in all details, whatever you mentioned in a way. Maybe you have come to little advanced. Rather, sometimes used to fascinate how this MLD and all these things are new kind of succeeding technologies are emerging. But my point is now, luckily I'm the chairman of Board of Research, Innovation and Standards in IT. And we do a lot of innovation research, and we encourage, and we try to, rather we hold it a very high level innovation meet at Delhi. Because
you are talking about IIT, sir? IIT. Okay, great.
So this year we are holding on 26th and 27th of August, by the time the pandemic will be over. So it is a similar, what you're talking is that bringing the startups, young student researchers, innovators, and industry. Okay, so that's one platform. This is what we play, the role we play. And,
I would like to be associated with that.
Yeah.
Capacity.
So I will have your card with the Hyderabad Center. Definitely we will call you. And secondly, the point comes is luckily we have got this all lectures. What are the lectures you have delivered? It is very very lecture for especially where the BTech student, MTech students are there, and projects which Dr. Bhatia was mentioning. We have got a land project in IIT. It is available. All this today's talk, we will put it on that land. So it is for all over India. Whosoever is a member of IIT, whether he's a corporate member or student member, can enter the land, and it is open for all the members. By the way, we have got 1 lakh plus members. So that is the beauty of IIT when we go about, and like today's your lecture, I'll get it. I think it is being recorded. We'll take it and we'll load it to our ELAN program. There's what we call ELAN program, and it will be disseminated to all the. Now this is a webcast. Earlier used to be broadcast. Now we are actually webcast. Now it's there. Secondly, what I suggest one thing. Today you are saying your students are coming. Can you record 5 or 10 minutes of video recording, so that that also we load it? Because one thing is just talking on I have never visited LED factory is being made. Only thing is, only we talk with studied only. And today, of course, now the way the slides you are there, it has been explained very nicely. But it's slightly video recording of maybe that you can decide, because you're the best expert on this. If that much is enough to understand for a person at that level to get into, because video impact will be much better. It could be replayed in the class also. It could be any platform also.
Prabhakar, this is the age of remote learning now. We are so the video should be made such a way that anybody sitting anywhere should get at least 90% of the knowledge. Which you are right.
I just add on here practically, because the pandemic is there now. Even though we have decided to hold our innovation industry meet in August, because they kept it at the end of August. But suppose the pandemic is there at that time. So I want to use a technology platform also, so that we can have video recordings of the various people like you and those who can put it. At least we can still will like to have that kind of industry institution, a virtual meet, maybe in a different format.
Yeah, this is a highly productive and highly efficient and on-demand program. Right?
Okay. Yeah. Now I come to the main question.
Sir,
I come to the main question now. I have been in Air Force. I spent 22 years in Air Force and 27 years in the academics. Okay, so in Air Force, the Air Force is very fast, like especially fighters. We are not talking of transport aeroplanes. Fighters, you understand, it goes and come back, and it's a real vast scenario. That we have got an air situation board. The display earlier, there used to be a person who should plot that aircraft position on the screen. The commander sitting on the other side take a decision. Okay, that is from the radar. Somebody's on his phone used to send, okay, aircraft and so position. Then they used to plot on the air, we call air situation board. That used to be perplex glass type of thing. But now with the neon technology, why can't be made smart? And Bhatia is sitting, rather the challenge for him also to send a radar signal, which can be directly displayed on your screen.
Yes.
It's very, very challenging, I must say, but very, very innovative also.
Sir, this is called
slightly technology wise you have explained. Today you have explained the technology. I can understand it can be done. It can be done.
Situation displays are available, sir, today. Situation displays, they can take the data. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, this is a heads-up display. Sangmar ji, aap bataiye.
Situation display, they are available. We have done one project for one of the missile project, which I don't want to name now. We are capturing the data from the radars and various centers, and we are displaying them in the form of a graphics by showing their locations. We have done it, and it is already implemented, sir. It cannot be available for the entire.
I don't actually slightly. I
understand, Prabhakar ji. What you are asking is that the instrument cluster ka information hai, it should be visible to the eye automatically. कहाँ भी आप देखो, it's a heads up display कहते हैं, and उसके लिए
I don't know what is mentioning. Actually, when we are in this scenario, there are multiple emitters, multiple inputs are there. We don't want one. We have all kind of inputs, various kind of inputs. So, and that inputs are actually, see the difference comes is, I didn't mention the train. It could have been the train. The rail